I'm Emily from Phase and welcome to the Get Set workshop. This workshop is all about getting ready. So here are some of our volunteers and they're going to tell you the very first thing that they do in the morning when they start getting ready.
Hello, my name's Amanda and the first thing I do every morning before I do anything else after I've got up is make a nice cup of coffee.
First thing I do in the morning is make myself a cup of tea.
Hi, I'm Rebecca and I'm a volunteer for Phase. And the first thing that I do in the morning is I have a really big stretch.
So before we start the workshop, I need you to do the Get Set challenge to make sure that you are completely ready to go. All the instructions are going to come up on the screen to tell you exactly what you need to do, as well as a timer, so you don't need to pause the video. You've got exactly 5 minutes to complete this challenge. So are you ready? Your time starts now. Okay, so hopefully you have completed the challenge, or you might be feeling a bit confused. Those of you that read the instructions carefully might have realised that you had to read the whole challenge screen before you started. Then you would have read number 7 and realised that you actually only had to complete number 3. I wonder how many of you missed the instruction. Well, this was just a bit of fun, but it's an important reminder to be prepared and to read information carefully. This is particularly important at the moment as you're doing work from home and perhaps haven't got your teacher around to ask questions. But whenever we face new situations, maybe as you're moving up towards secondary school, it's helpful to read information carefully that you're given to make sure that you can be prepared as you can be.
Okay, so before we move on with the workshop, we need to remember the 3 R's. I wonder how many of you can remember the 3 R's. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to see if you can remember them. So the 3 R's are responsibility, resilience and role model. So well done if you got all 3 of those. And Get Set is all about getting ready, getting prepared. And in this session, we're going to be building on each one of those 3 words a little bit more. So why don't you turn to the front of your booklet and get those 3 words written down before we explore them in a little bit more detail. So number 1 is responsibility. And responsibility is all about taking ownership of the things that you do, whether they're good or whether they're bad, and making sure that you get everything done that you need to get done. Now, you will all have learned a little bit more responsibility this year than maybe before, having to do all your schoolwork at home without your teacher there to keep an eye on you. But you've still got to take responsibility to make sure that everything gets done. In our last session, we looked at priorities with the vase and the balls and the marbles and the water, and the importance of doing the most important tasks first, and then the less important tasks, and then the things that we do for fun after. And this is called time management, how we can best use our time to get everything done that we need to get done. So I've got a little challenge for you. Jane is really busy and she's got so many things that she needs to get done in her week. Coming up on the screen now are all the different things that Jane has to fit into her week. And if you turn to page 2 in your booklet, you'll find a plan or a timetable where you can write all of these things in. You can also find an extra resource, which is your own timetable that you can print out and have a go at planning your own week and managing your own time. So I wonder how you found that activity. Even though it's important that we all manage our time well, we might all do it in slightly different ways. If you have loads of energy first thing in the morning when you get up, then maybe you want to put your most important tasks at the beginning of the day. However, if you find mornings difficult and maybe you get a bit more energy in the evening or in the afternoon, then you want to plan your activities to do then. What's important is that you find a way that works the best for you. And as you move on to secondary school, there's going to be more and more different things and different lessons that you need to fit into your day. So this is such an important skill to start practicing now. So our second R is resilience. And resilience is about when we feel uncomfortable, when we feel challenged and stretched and out of our comfort zone. Not giving up, but trying again, about keeping going and bouncing back and being able to recover. And the amazing thing about resilience is it's like a muscle, and the more that we use it, the more that we grow. In the same way that if I ask somebody to quickly do me 50 press-ups, they might not be able to do it. But if they did 1 press-up, and then tomorrow they did 2 press-ups, and the day after they did 3, then over time they would get stronger, the muscles would build, and eventually they'd be able to do 50 press-ups. Every time that we're out of our comfort zone or we feel a little bit uncomfortable and we use some resilience to keep going and to try again, we are growing that muscle of resilience a little bit stronger, and eventually we will be able to push through and recover from really difficult situations. Sometimes it's helpful to hear stories of how other people have shown resilience. So here is Kieran to tell us a story about Cliff Young.
A marathon is one of the hardest races anybody can ever run. But did you know in Australia there's something called the ultra marathon that went from Sydney all the way to Melbourne? 544 miles long. It's the same distance from Hitchin all the way up to Inverness in Scotland. And back many years ago in 1983, a 61-year-old cattle farmer called Cliff Young decided to run this race. Now, Cliff had never done anything like this before, and he turned up on the race day in his overalls and welly boots, while everybody else around him, all the other runners, these top athletes, were in their lycra and race suits and everything else that they needed, but not Cliff. As they looked at him and sneered and thought, what's this guy doing here? He was just there to run his race. In fact, Cliff took out his dentures and popped them in his pocket so they didn't rattle around. And as the gun went off, all the other runners sprinted off ahead of Cliff. And he just started to shuffle in his wellies and his overalls. Now, the idea for running this race is that runners would run for 18 hours and then sleep for 6. But Cliff didn't know this. So what Cliff did was run all the way through the night, keeping his shuffling going. And as those runners rested, Cliff slowly but surely caught up with them until the final day of the race. As they were resting overnight, Cliff overtook all the runners. In fact, Cliff finished the race 9 hours before anybody else. He'd beaten the record previously set just by persevering. When he crossed the line, he was given his check for $10,000, the prize money for the race. Cliff didn't even know there was a prize. He was so surprised that he decided to give money to each of the other runners in that race. When they asked him why he kept going, he said, I believed I could. He said he reminded them that he was a cattle farmer, and as a cattle farmer, he'd have to round up his 2,000 cattle by foot. And so he was used to running through the night. So he said, I just kept thinking about those cattle and rounding them up. Cliff had that hope that he could do it. And that's what got him over the line.
In the last year, we have faced so many new situations, and as you go on to secondary school, you might even face a few more. Resilience doesn't mean that everything's going to work out first time, but it means to keep going and to try again and to give things another shot. Kid President says, if at first you don't succeed, you're normal. How amazing does it feel when we find something really difficult at first, but eventually we're able to get through it or to do it? If every time we face a new situation we found it easy, then we'd have no opportunity to learn or to grow. Facing new situations gives us the opportunity to build resilience and to learn so many new things, as well as the opportunity to reach out and to support one another. So we want you to design us a poster telling us all about resilience. You could do an acronym, you could do a picture, maybe you could tell us a story of a time that you've shown resilience or someone you know who is really resilient. So the third R is a role model. And a role model is someone that you look up to and admire and who inspires you to do better. It doesn't always mean that you have to be that person or want to be that person, but that you see qualities in them that you want to grow and develop. And a role model can be anyone from any walk of life. It could be someone in your family or someone you know close. It could be someone in your community, or it could be somebody that is a celebrity or really well known. Here are some of our volunteers to tell us who their role models are.
So one of my role models is Serena Williams, who's a tennis player. And 3 reasons why I think she's a great role model are, first of all, that she's persistent. So she constantly has to train and practice to be the best she can at tennis. Secondly, that she's really strong. So through her training, she strengthens her muscles and her tennis ability, but also strengthens her mind so that she's able to come back every single day and keep practicing and training. And finally, that she gets back up after defeat. So even if she has a bad match or a bad round, she can get back up and she can give it her all and try again and put all her skills to use to be able to hopefully win the match.
My role model is Captain Tom Moore. He inspired me through his actions and words when he walked around his garden 100 times for his 100th birthday in order to raise money for the NHS. What started off as a small action turned into something that captured the heart of the nation and raised around £33 million. So Captain Tom Moore was that inspiration. He gave hope and was generous in how he used his time and energy.
One of my role models is Joe Wicks, the nation's favourite PE teacher. The reason he's one of my role models is that he's somebody who's very passionate. He really believes in the fitness that he does, and that passion passes on to other people. Not only that, he's very generous. He likes to make a difference to the community and people that he can. But also because he's very honest about how he feels and how life is. And I think that's really important for us to be honest with people around us so they can help us and we can also help them.
The good role models that I'd like to share with you are the Brownlee brothers, who are triathletes, which is something I'm interested in. They grew up in North Yorkshire, so they come from humble backgrounds. They've worked really hard to get where they are and to achieve what they have, but also, as well as training together and competing against each other, they support each other in everything that they do.
So now I want you to have a think about who your role model could be. It could be somebody that we've already mentioned, somebody that you know personally, or there's some different faces that are going to come up on the screen now that you might recognise and who you might want to use as a role model. Don't worry if you don't know who all of the people are. Try not to just pick somebody that you like, but think about what their qualities are and how they inspire you. Then you can write their name at the top of your worksheet and have a go at writing out 3 or 4 of the qualities that they might show. Fantastic. So now I want you to pick one quality that you've written down about your role model that you would like to develop. Maybe it's kindness, maybe it's determination, maybe it's bravery, or maybe it's being really hardworking. Or whatever it is, I want you to write that at the bottom of the sheet, and then I want you to think of one thing that you can do to try and grow or develop that skill or quality. Wonderful. Well, now that you're in year 6, you are naturally going to become a role model to your friends and to the younger children around you, whether that's at school, at home, in your neighbourhoods. And it takes courage to be a role model. It means being responsible. It means doing the right thing and knowing that people are watching you. So I encourage you to think about what kind of role model you want to be and what are the qualities that you want to show. Fantastic. So our 3 R's were responsibility, resilience, and role model. And in this session, we've developed and built on each one of those a little bit more. And I encourage you to keep practicing each of those skills during this time. Now we have a little gift for you, but as we can't be in school, we can't give it to you right now, but your stretchy men will be waiting for you when you get back to school. So we hope that you enjoyed them, we hope you enjoyed this workshop, and we look forward to seeing you really, really soon.